You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI Mo Kelly live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And as customary, Jackie Ray joins me on this Monday evening. Good evening, Jackie Ray.
Good evening. Good to see you.
We had talked about how the show Inside the NBA, which was on TNT, it featured Ernie Johnson Jr., Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaquille O'Neal. I said something to the effect that it was the best sports show.
Absolutely.
On television, bar none. Nothing else is close. And I said that against the backdrop of this bidding war for NBA television rights. TNT had a portion of it. ESPN/ABC had a portion of it. And I know that NBC was in the running for it. We do know that TNT will not have the rights for it anymore. So the question was, what was going to happen to this gold standard show in the next few years? Well, we do know, at least next year, Inside the NBA will appear on ESPN and ABC next year. It makes perfect sense to me. You have a hit show. I mean, a tremendous show. And in fact, it'll probably get more exposure on ESPN and ABC together than TNT, because unless you're like a dyed-in-the-wool NBA fan, you're not watching TNT. They don't have as many games as ESPN and ABC. And also, TNT, they don't get to carry the finals. So you'll get to see Inside the NBA on at least those two networks. I don't know if you felt as I did, but I think finally they made the easy decision right in front of them.
I thought this was the way to go from the jump. I'm a little surprised that it took this long. And the reason for that is I know a lot of novice basketball fans, to your point, they don't really watch, no one really watches TNT for the game. Like if you're one of those people who are just scouring, cause you don't want to pay for whatever service that you can watch the Lakers and all that good stuff, you might watch, but for the most part, people aren't tuning into TNT on a regular basis because it just, like you said, doesn't carry enough games. But I literally have a friend who is not really a basketball fan, but loves to watch TNT because she lives for this show. She couldn't tell you what LeBron James's number is. She barely knows who Bronny is, but she loves the chemistry of this team because they're funny, they're quirky, they make halftime fun, and they're common. And so you don't want to lose that, especially right now when the NBA is losing viewership. You don't want to lose such a great sports show that is bringing in fans. So this was a common sense move for me. I'm glad they finally got this done.
And I say they because the NBA, I'm quite sure, had a say in this, as well as the networks had a say in this. To your point, I know too many people, me included, I don't even care who was playing in the game. Right. I just want to see their show Inside the NBA. And if you don't know the dynamic between Charles Barkley, we've played some of the audio before, Charles Barkley and Shaq.
Or Kenny running for the...
Kenny Smith with his knock knees and running for the big screen, he'll fall over or something. Right. There are some really, really funny unscripted moments. And I know people were enjoying the NBA more just because of this show. And far too often you find in network television or even cable television, they will cancel these shows and not understand the impact of these shows. For once they've gotten it right. Now, I don't think it's going to change the feel, even though it will be in a different studio, but
it's not going to change the field. This is all about them. You live for Ernie's face of just, sometimes he has this confusion, disgust, but
he
humor,
plays it straight.
His expressions are great. The chemistry that they have built up and the banter between them, it doesn't matter. They could literally be in one of those $5,000 backyards and it's still going to be a great show.
And to your point, once again, it's those four. Now they may sub in some people on some occasions like Chris Webber and others. It's not the same.
It's not. Candace Parker's done it a few times.
Right.
Yeah.
No disrespect. It doesn't have the same type of chemistry. Now, I wonder why this show has not grown beyond the show in the way that you have a Shannon Sharp, and he would do stuff for not only his podcast, but he'll have Nightcap with Chad Ochocinco. I'm surprised these four haven't done something similar, given that they spend enough time together. They could probably do a podcast and monetize that in a way that these other sports figures have.
I would imagine one of the key points in that is probably Shaq, because he does everything. He invests, he owns businesses, he's running around. He just did another rap song, so he's out there doing several different things. And then, Kenny, I don't know, he's probably got.
They have other stuff
They've got stuff going on.
But it seems like it would be low-hanging fruit and an easy thing to do, especially in this podcast world, this social media world, where you could, look, put it this way. I talk about this because I would love to hear Charles Barkley unscripted in an environment where he can say absolutely everything he wants. And I've seen it in person, but you don't get to see it long form in a video medium. I would love to see that. I would love to see Shaquille O'Neal doing the same thing.
Well, doesn't Charles and Ernie have like an offshoot podcast? It's not as good though. It's kind of dry compared to
right. It's kind of dry and it's kind of tame. But when they're all together, it's never tame.
But this might be the catalyst that makes that happen, because ESPN, a lot of their programming, the numbers are declining. So now maybe they can figure out a way to make this work. All of them are familiar with the ESPN platform, so it's not a huge leap. So maybe this is how we get that to happen.
Well, I'm going to try not to be greedy, but I am glad that they're keeping Inside the NBA as part of the NBA. It definitely wasn't broke. You didn't need to fix it. Just keep it as is. People will find it, and it will increase viewership for all involved. But speaking of viewership, when we come back, we have to talk about that thing which happened Friday night on Netflix, which was supposedly some sort of boxing match. And I have a real question for you. Since people are betting on it, people believe that it is legitimate competition. I don't believe it is, and I am by no means a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think this is legitimate competition, and I would love to get your thoughts on that on the other side.
Oh, I have them.
All right. It's Later with Mo Kelly. Jackie Ray joins me in studio. KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Now, I don't know where you were, but maybe you were one of the 60 million people who tuned in to see that WWE match between, and I say WWE because Jake Paul is connected to the WWE. He is a personality for WWE. That event on Friday between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. I have been a boxing fan all my life. I've been a Mike Tyson fan since he came on the scene and he won the World Heavyweight Championship, Lineal Heavyweight Championship, back when he was 20. He is now 58. He had no business being in the ring, and I said from the very beginning I didn't want to remember him that way, and I thought that if he were to win, he'd have to beat Jake Paul within the first 2 rounds.
Yep.
It was not going to happen after that. Look, I don't care what type of shape you're in. You know, Father Time is undefeated for a reason, and this is coming on the heels of, excuse me, this is coming on the heels of Evander Holyfield getting the brakes beat off him by Vitor Belfort, who was 44 and a non-boxer. There was no way this was going to end well for Mike Tyson.
Right.
But here is what really bothers me. We're told that this is legitimate competition, and yet it's not a sanctioned fight. They had 8 rounds, 2 minutes each. They had 14-ounce gloves instead of 10, which is nice. It's a little more padding. I didn't want anyone to die in the ring. But am I the only one who thinks that this is not legitimate competition and there's not some level of scripting to this?
It would be impossible. I think that the only people who would think there's any kind of credence to this and that it's a real in any way are people who know nothing about boxing. Because that's just not what, when you're talking about boxers in their prime, after they win a match, they always call out the next guy, the guy that has proven himself in the ring, and the person that is the end all be all, the person that's difficult to beat, because that's how you continue to level up in the sport. UFC is the same way. You want to beat the person that nobody can beat. You don't want to beat the guy that's 30 years older than you.
Excuse me, 31.
Oh, it's my bad. 31, and definitely got his AARP card. You don't want to do that. That no shade. I'm looking forward to my AARP discounts. They will come in one day. But my point is Jake doesn't take it seriously. So how is there's no real boxing fan that will take it seriously. And look, I get it. If Jake doesn't want to come up through the ranks, if he doesn't want to do the fight where he has to fight, go through the trenches, fight the no names, get those big wins, and to finally get on a real ticket. There's still ways to do it. Now you've established this yourself as this person who can get people paid. There are a ton of boxers right now who have put in the work that you could put in that ring to prove if you really have any kind of boxing legitimacy. But when you're boxing a guy who is well past his prime and has had a plethora of issues since then, and it's just not legitimate. And I don't think Jake personally takes it legitimately. I think that he presents it that way for the financial gain, but there's no way that this is a legitimate situation.
I don't fault the business model. If you can get 60 million people to watch, or on other instances pay,
right,
to see you stand in the ring with basketball players or washed up MMA folks, for you to be able to do that and parlay that into a I would say, 8-figure deal with WWE, you're doing something right as an entertainer and performer. I do not begrudge him.
Right.
But as a fan of sport and actual competition, I hate it because it's neither. Now, last I heard, he's trying to call out Canelo Alvarez.
Come on.
And he would outweigh him by a good 60 pounds.
He might as well call out Jackie Ray at this point. It's ridiculous.
I saw memes where he was calling out Muhammad Ali, from the grave. That's the thing. You're mocking the sport. You're not actually trying to be a serious entrant in the sport.
Yeah.
Fight a real boxer who is this side of 45, a real boxer, and it may not give the type of pay-per-view, or it may, because people be curious, can this guy actually fight? I don't think Tommy Fury, who beat Jake Paul, has fought since that fight.
Right. And I just, again, he presents himself like he's a boxer, like he goes in and he puts in the work and he does all of these things. Okay, well then you still have to prove yourself on the boxing stage. Look, I live in Long Beach. There's a gym down the street from my house. I would love to broker a fight between you and one person in that gym that no one has ever heard of. I guarantee you the outcome is different. And then that point, I feel like more people will be like, oh, well, he's not a real boxer. Then all of a sudden people will accept the truth about the situation. But right now, people want to accept this fallacy because he's fighting people way past their prime. Any other situation, we would call Jake Paul a bully. we would call
him a fraud. That's for sure.
A bully and a fraud. And I'm with you. I'm not hating his business model. I read that prior to this fight, Mike Tyson's net worth was like 10 million. I think it's at least double that.
Yeah, doubled it. Right.
So it's a win-win for everyone. But at the same time, I didn't watch it because I just don't enjoy. I really enjoy the sport of boxing. I enjoy seeing people play defense and understand what their opponent is doing and really have this cadence and this song and dance that they're doing in the ring. So I'm never going to watch Jake Paul.
I would never pay for Jake Paul, but since it was included in my subscription on Netflix, and it was one of those things that we call a talker. People were talking about it to his benefit. He gets people talking. I watched it. I was in a hotel bar watching it on my phone via my Netflix subscription, and it was bad. It was a bad product. It was a bad fight. It was not entertaining. It was not enjoyable. It was not exciting. And I'm not an MMA fan. I'm not a fan of that sport because I like to see more technical skill than what's
brutality.
Than just straight brutality. And I'm like I'm into the sweet science. I can't find a good boxing match anymore because boxing is so messed up as a sport.
Right.
They can't get the different organizations together and stage the fights that we want to see like they did in the 1980s. You'll never see another time in which you have a Sugar Ray Leonard fight everyone in his weight class who was the best at the time multiple times, fighting Roberto Duran twice, or Tommy Hearns 3 times, or Marvin Hagler, Wilfredo Benitez. You'll never have that again. And to Dana White's credit, the best in MMA fight the best in MMA.
Right.
To his detriment, his fighters are getting robbed. They're not getting paid.
And that was that's what gave birth to Jake Paul.
Correct.
Because that is how he started. He said, hey, if you want to get paid, come over here. Now, when he initially said that, I was like, I can't in good conscience see these people get beat like this for peanuts. So yeah, do your thing, Jake Paul. But now he's become, in my opinion, a detriment to the sport. because now he is really kind of taken away to the nuances and the training and the commitment. And that's what people don't get. There's a commitment that you have to be great at this day in and day out. And so I wish we could find middle ground, because he's not wrong in that. Dana White is out here robbing people.
I could accept exhibitions.
Right.
Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. was an exhibition. Right. Okay.
And it looked like we thought it would.
Right. But it still was a boxing match. Mm-hmm. This is a circus now. This is like you're watching to see, the bearded lady. You're looking for the guy with 3 appendages or something.
Right.
You're not looking for an actual sporting competition. And that's why I do begrudge Jake Paul what he's done to what I love about boxing. Now, let me just ask you this before we get out of here. From a societal standpoint, we can appreciate his business strategy. We can appreciate him calling out Dana White, which he has done. Mm-hmm. But is there any real negative effect beyond boxing as what we want boxing to be? Is there anything wrong with this?
I mean, I think it's just the narrative in our society as a whole. People think that they can just kind of skate by on certain things without putting in the actual work. And I think we've seen that across the board. I think one of the reasons people don't as a journalist, I've seen this, people don't have the same faith in journalists anymore, is because people grab a mic and they head out to the street and all of a sudden they feel like they're a journalist.
Or they start a blog.
Yeah. And so I think it's part of our society. It's literally the dumbing down of our society. And people think that just because they want to do something, the training and the dedication and the commitment and the passion is irrelevant. And so it's a problematic across the board.
You are so right, because I can't tell you how many times people will approach me, mm-hmm. and either they may not like me or they don't know the dedication to the craft which is required, and say, I can do what you do.
No, you can't.
Well, and I tell them the same thing every single time. I can give you the email of my program director, or you can send your air check to me and I will send it to them. I'm not a hater. If you can do it better than me,
I'll applaud you.
And I will show you a way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But more times than not, they just want to talk stuff because they don't understand what is actually required in what we do. And I think you're spot on with that. And that's maybe the larger issue, because you have someone who wants to be taken seriously as a boxer, but doesn't want to have actual fights.
Exactly. Doesn't want to put in the work. It's terrible. Can I shout out somebody before I go?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I've been doing the Mo Kelly show for a while now, and I came to the Halloween party, as a lot of you know. And so I met a woman named Jamaica Loud, and she actually came to my birthday party, part 2 of my birthday party last night, and made me the most amazing tote bag that says The Jackie Ray Show on it. And I just wanted to shout her out.
Did you put it on social media?
I will take a picture and I'll put it on social media. But you know what? You can see both of those on my podcast, because I'm going to wear, she also got me a shirt that has my slogan on it, which is I cover people. So I will be wearing that and I will show you the tote. So make sure you check out the Jackie Ray Show on Tuesday. But also, if you happen to be in Lancaster, she has a grooming company called Four Paws Grooming.
PAWS.
PAWS. Yeah. So thank you for being not even just a fan, but has become a friend and gave me my favorite birthday present.
Well, we're coming up on Small Business Saturday, so why don't we just go ahead and start that early?
Yeah, let's do that.
Jackie Ray, it's always good to see you.
You too.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And the number one movie this past weekend, not surprised, but it was a very soft number one. It was Red One, the movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Chris Evans. They have to save Santa Claus, who had been kidnapped. I've seen the trailers. I have no desire to see this movie, even though I'm a fan of Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. The whole idea of this movie just seems Netflix written all over it. It seems like it could have been perfect for streaming over the holidays. Not that I would actually go to the theater to see it. And I say that, and I say Netflix because Chris Evans has done a lot of stuff on Netflix. Dwayne Johnson has done a lot of stuff on Netflix. Why this garnered a theatrical release, I'm just not sure. But it came in at number one. It did $32 million domestically, did $51 internationally, for a total of $83 million.
Which is light for The Rock.
Yes.
That's light. And Chris Evans, that's light.
Oh, I'll tell you how light it is. Can you imagine that this movie's budget was $250 million?
You're kidding.
That's like Avengers Endgame level budget. $250 million, and it doesn't have the type of marketing campaign that any Avengers movie would have. 200. There's no way in the world that you could have told me that this movie was ever going to break even. It's impossible for this movie, even if it had 125 million this first weekend, which it was not, still was not going to break even. 250 million about a movie that's, you're trying to save Santa.
I actually thought that this was going to be released on Netflix. I didn't know it was coming to theaters, and so I missed the opportunity to get tickets because, I'm interested in seeing it. But I'm thinking this has to be one of those things that Netflix put it out so it can be like in contention for
a Razzie?
No, for an award.
It's an award. Razzie is an award.
No, I heard it wasn't that bad though.
Okay, let's say it's not that bad. It's just not a movie which is probably going to have the type of support which justifies the $250 million price tag. And I don't know. Dwayne Johnson is a leading man. I'll give him that. But I don't know if he can carry a blockbuster this size. We saw what he did with Black Adam, and that wasn't bad. I didn't dislike that.
But that also was not
I didn't dislike it, Mark.
Success.
I did not dislike it, but my point was yours, Tawala, where comparable budget, it did not make the money that they would have hoped. And just adding Chris Evans, who I think is a fine actor, but I don't know if he can move the meter by himself or as a part of a tandem, a buddy cop.
The Rock has now a history of big budget releases that he has been the lead in that have failed to move the needle at the box office, because also that Jungle Cruise, which I know it co-starred, what's her name? Krasinski's wife.
Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
But that film was a big disappointment at the box office.
It helps that these big movies are still being shown in theaters, but if they don't perform well, it's not going to do a lot for theaters. And I mentioned that because it was released in more than 4,000 theaters, meaning that it's a very wide release. You can get as many as maybe 4,400, 4,500 theaters. So it is out there. Its per screen average is just not all that impressive. And it's not going to do any better next week just because we're a week closer to Christmas or something. If you can't bring it in this first week, it's not like it's going to, they're going to bring it in week 2.
I'm going to buy tickets for it, even if I can't see it. I support The Rock.
Yeah, I'm just going to support him on streaming. That's all.
Yeah, he needs your money, Chihuahua. Give till it hurts.
Here's something else. Coming in second is Venom: The Last Dance. And we all know by just about every measure, it's a horrible movie. But it's grossed $436 million worldwide. It is making money for Sony. That means there's got to be like Venom, the after party, the Diddy party or something. If this is The Last Dance, there has to be another Venom. Why? Because it is a moneymaker, as much as I hate to say that. How many other movies made close to $500 million this year? A handful?
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine, Inside Out 2, not many. So anytime a studio can point to a movie, damn sure Red One is not going to make $500 million. So Venom: The Last Dance obviously is turning a profit and has been profitable for Sony Pictures.
It is a hit by all standards, especially when you consider nothing is coming out next week or the week after or the week after that is going to take this film out of the top 5.
Which
it
means
doesn't have to be number 1.
Right, which means theaters are not going to be as aggressive in dropping it because they need something to put in its place. And if this movie is still doing business, there's no need to move it. I mean, you keep it where it is. And let me just amend what I was saying before. I said that people were tired of bad superhero movies, It's not the genre itself. Here's an example of a bad superhero movie, and it's still doing better than 95% of the other movies from other genres. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
For all the people who are supposedly tired of the genre, well, y'all are going to see Venom. Y'all went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. It's what people are actually going to see. So for all the criticisms, the actions are not meeting the criticism. Now, what were you going to say about Dwayne Johnson, Mark?
I hadn't planned on saying anything, but I'm glad to know you're the one person on earth who liked Black Adam. I could barely make it through that.
I did.
like Black Adam.
I really did
Okay,
like
two
Black
people.
Adam.
It was a cow pie. You're both overruled.
Oh, my.
No.
A steamer. An
wanted
absolute steamer.
I actually wanted to see a sequel to that with Henry Cavill, more so than anything named Shazam.
I'll watch Henry Cavill as Superman any day. I think it was the worst decision DC's made to get rid of him as Superman. He was a really good Superman in some mediocre movies.
Yeah, but I understand why they did, because he's going to age out of the role long term. If you're trying to have a franchise going forward, it wasn't going to be with Henry Cavill because he just wouldn't fit the role.
Oh, he had a few more years left. Look at how old George Reeves looked, and he is the archetypal
Mark,
Superman.
man.
Don't you even start with
I'm
me.
trying to dig George Reeves up out of his
How
grave.
dare both of you
Leave George Reeves alone.
taking a deuce on George Reeves like that? How dare you?
Look,
That's like saying
crazy.
Adam West is going to be the next Batman.
I'll get right out of this booth and kill both of you on the spot.
I mean, like, how is it George Reeves can fit, but Adam West wouldn't fit?
Adam West was magnificent. He's easily one of the best Batman of all time.
So let's cast him alongside Colin Farrell.
What's the point of this?
Would you say George Reeves?
He was a great Superman. If you probably haven't even seen any of those shows, have you?
Yes, I have.
They
because
are
it was
magnificent.
The only show which was around back in the day.
Well, they were before.
Suitable.
As old as you are, those shows are before both our times. But they're still.
But they were on TV all the time.
They're great shows.
With him laying on the table.
Yes.
I got it.
Yeah,
Yes.
jumping out the window onto a mattress.
Yes.
It was a midday filler when you were ditching school. Yes, Mark.
You couldn't avoid them.
I want both of you to know that I forgive you for your profound and offensive ignorance. Watch that episode of the George Reeves Superman where he takes the blind girl flying, and if you still aren't on board,
Mark,
I'll bury you both alive.
Are you really trying to fight for a George Reeves revival here?
Absolutely. Even more so than for Kung Fu.
George Reeves
Oh, my goodness.
in a Zack Snyder movie. How about that? Is that what you're gunning for, or James Gunn?
I'm not going to. No, there's apples and oranges.
No, but that's the whole point. That's why we're saying that Henry Cavill, they had to move on from Henry Cavill because it didn't fit the vision of James Gunn, and also a 50-year-old Superman in a contemporary movie sense, unless you're talking about a specific comic run having to do with an older Superman, doesn't make sense. And that's only good for one movie, not four.
I think he had some more in him, and I'm skeptical of this new vision, but James Gunn has some nerd cred, so let's see what he comes up with.
You'll probably be wrong about that, too.
Negatory.
It's later with Mo Kelly. We got your horoscope when we come back. KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. It's time for your horoscope. And did you know that cuffing season is here? And we're going to let you know how you can use astrology to spice up your sex life. Yes, let's get to it. What is cuffing season? It's the autumnal urge to enter into a more serious or defined relationship in anticipation of a long winter to come. Cuffing refers to the idea that commitment between two people is akin to the pair of handcuffs themselves together, which could be kinky or horrifying depending on your interpretation. And cuffing season lasts from late fall to early spring. Equinox to equinox, if you're paying attention. Here we go. Aries. The cold plunge. Ruled by warmonger Mars, Aries folk like their sex and their conflict hot and often. But it turns out cold plunging paves the way to intensified intimacy. If you're not ready to invest in a full plunge system, you can ice down your bathtub as some kind of frigid foreplay. Check that out. Experts recommend couples hold hands, sink their breath, and stare into each other's eyes while in the chill before warming up and getting down with the dirty, bumping uglies. Taurus. I can't say this on a radio, Tawala. Why do you hand this I can't talk about doggy anything. All right. What?
That's Taurus. That's the style.
Okay. I'll see how far I can go. How deep with this I can go.
How deep, huh?
As a fixed earth sign, get your mind out of the gutter. Taurus folk are inclined towards intimacy that feels like wild abandon with minimal effort. There's no one right way to do it, as long as the giver.
You got to be careful with that one. Got to be very, very careful.
Okay, Taurus, just think of your favorite pooch and go from there. Gemini, up close. Okay, I can't read this. We got a thing called the FCC. I can't. Why you give that? Good and well, I can't talk about different positions on air.
It's cuffing season.
It is cuffing season, but reverse count. Never mind.
What?
Never mind.
As a Gemini, I require you to read my horoscope promptly.
I can't.
Well, you can talk around it. You can use euphemisms. I'll help you out.
No, we're just going to go.
Yeah,
with
it's
give me. Yeah, we're going to do a different horoscope.
Ooh, like
okay?
that, Gemini.
We're going to change gears. Okay. Here's the weekly horoscope from Parade Magazine. What were you on, Gemini? Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to go from one extreme to the other. Gemini seeks meaningful dialogue this week. They want to skip the small talk and dive into philosophical discussion topics. Their intensity may scare off some. However, their approach will intellectually inspire those willing to dive deep. Now, you can make your own, sexual innuendo out of that if you like.
No, it's a long way from where you started to Parade Magazine.
Cancer, here you go, Stefan. Cancer is taking intimacy seriously this week. Pluto enters their transformation sector, highlighting the themes of interdependence. To spiritually evolve, they must lean on others and allow others to lean on them. There's no growth in going it alone any longer. So find yourself a woman, Stefan.
So they call that the transformation sector in Cancer world.
What are you trying to say, Twala?
No, I mean, they're entering the transformation sector.
Oh, jeez.
Leo. This week challenges Leo to wear their heart on their sleeve. The cool guy act is up. They must let love in to grow and show how much they care deep down. Being vulnerable allows others to showcase their genuine commitment and dedication to connection. Virgo, y'all are taking an honest look at burnout this week. As Pluto enters their responsibility sector, what is this, like a grid?
Yeah. The responsibility sector, yes.
Are these zoned? Like a city?
No,
work and play,
the responsibility
commercial
sector of their mind, how they compartmentalize their thoughts and feelings and emotions. The responsibility sector must come.
That sounds way unsexy, but as Pluto enters their responsibility sector, it must change their approach to to-do lists, agendas, and workload. They are only one person. Their productivity will be redefined. Libra. There's inspiration to connect with this week. Pluto enters their romantic sector, making their innermost desires undeniable. Spiritual evolution comes from allowing themselves to want who and what they desire. Giving in and prioritizing their happiness is vital. Scorpio, Twala has a birthday coming up. Scorpio.
Yeah.
This week is major as Pluto enters Aquarius. Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto, is deeply impacted. Their psychological sector is hit, pushing them to address their inner well-being. To progress, they must tend to their roots and home life. Sagittarius, that's me. Well, we Sagittarians are feeling inspired to make shifts in our social lives this week. As Pluto enters our intellectual sector, we can no longer deny our soul's needs. What we genuinely think and feel must be honored to sustain friendships and connections. Capricorn, this week brings relief to you. Pluto exits their sign, entering Aquarius. While change will still be necessary regarding their practical outlooks and actions, they've been waiting for this moment. With all of their recent lessons completed, Capricorn is ready to evolve and choose themselves. And lastly, or semi-lastly, is Aquarius. This week is major for Aquarians as Pluto enters their sign. The planet of transformation will push them to confront the blockages of being authentic to themselves. Is that like constipation? Their path is ripe with potential. However, they must take agency and responsibility. And lastly, Pisces. This week, Pluto enters Pisces' subconscious sphere of influence. It's time for them to come to terms with their hidden emotions and briefs. To spiritually evolve, they will need to examine what has been repressed. None of that makes any sense. I don't know what any of that means.
I can just tell you that Scorpio's cuffing season would definitely
Don't do
get
it.
us cut off the
Don't
air.
do it.
Lord have mercy. I will try this though.
What are you going to do? Like take pictures and post it on the internet?
No. You go to jail for posting something like this on the internet.
Oh.
At least not without a parental guidance warning. This is.
Why would you have a
MA.
Never mind. I don't want to ask anymore. I don't want to know anymore. I don't want to know.
Blindfolded? Okay, yeah.
Oh, blindfolded. Yeah, that never mind. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
The more you know, the easier it is to avoid the idiots around you.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live